Alright, we're gonna go shell a little field of corn tonight. It's Friday. Shelly's gonna drive truck. Let this thing warm up for a minute. Let that warm up for a minute. So for anybody that cares, that field down there ran 122.8, 1,080 bushel off of 8.8 acres according to the planner. And then the little field down there that we took the trees off of a couple years ago, that field went 139.8, 314 bushel. I forgot that's 2 1/4 acres, not 2. So is what it is. Grain quality has been awesome. Test weight has been 57, 58 or above. I had one load that I think was Endros. It was 56.6, but even 56.6 ain't bad. And that's between 57, 58 pound test weight at like 17, 18, 19% moisture. So if that was down to 15, 14 and a half, 15, it's probably 60 plus pound corn, which ain't bad. So I don't know, it is what it is. I'm curious to see, that was a 98-day stuff. I'm curious to see what happens when we get into the full season stuff, if that's any better or any worse. I know I had some nitrogen leaching because of all that rain. You could tell later in the season everything was starting, not just my stuff, but a lot of the stuff that I was scouting when I was still working for Brian. A lot of stuff was showing nitrogen deficiency by end of July, beginning of August, which at that point the stuff's too tall to really get over to get anything else on it anyhow, unless you had somebody custom apply it with a Haggy or something. But even then, so it's gonna be interesting to see how things turn out. I know the muck is gonna be shit. If that averages 100 bushel an acre, I'll be impressed, because when that first hurricane rain came through that dropped that 6.5 inches, that stuff turned into a lake for about 2.5 weeks. And there was corn that just flat out down there, just flat out gave up the ghost. It died and laid down. There's a bunch of big drowned out spots down there. Had a real bad case of the up downs going on. Now I know why the Youngs, the guys that farm the vast majority of that ground down there, took prevent plant, never even screwed with about half of it down there. But anywho, let's just warm up for another couple minutes and we will be on our way. Also, I realized, actually I noticed it a few days ago, but gonna have to do something about rebuilding the brake cylinders on this thing. So that's what that oil slick is right there. It's the brake cylinders leaking, which I never even used the brakes on this thing the first couple seasons I ran it, and then last year I put the tracks on, I had to use the brakes. So that's probably what did it, because it's a hydro, you never have to use the brakes. Okay, we are here. This field actually doesn't look too terrible. I guess we'll see. Shelly's over across the road, so we've got a shelter spot to park. end up too terribly bad. That's probably about 300-ish bushel. Test weight should be decent. Kernels aren't overly large, but the nice thing about small kernels is they pack really tight, so. I slowed the cylinder down some, trying to get some of that cob out of it, and I'm already down to 360. I'm scared to go too much lower. And concave damn near as far open as it'll go too, and I'm scared to open it up any more than what it is now. But there was a big spot there in the center that was a wet hole that I planted around. There was a bunch of deer damage right here. That swale right there in the back always has surface water running over it every time it rains, so that was all screwed up. So if we're close to 150 bushel, this one is exactly 2 acres. If we're close to 150 bushel on this, I'll call that a win. But anyhow, we're gonna run the truck home. I'm gonna drive it because we got to put fuel in it anyhow, and I want to bring a leaf blower back and blow that thing off. So tomorrow we are gonna switch to beans, so we will catch you guys tomorrow sometime. Okay, back to cutting beans. As I said, this morning I hauled that load of corn in. That little field is 295 bushel, if I remember right, off of 2.1 acres. It was 140 and some change bushel an acre. 57.9 on the test weight and 16.2 on the moisture, so I was actually able to dump that in the ground pile. These beans, if you look, these beans have already been shattering. They've been dry enough at least once. Plus, all these deer tracks, there's still deer out here. Like you can tell, this is all deer paths running through these things. Deer paths, deer tracks, deer tracks. If I fill Dad's truck, I will be impressed. If I get 320 bushel in there, that'll make this 26 bushel an acre. I'll be impressed if we make that. But this was the field that I sprayed that deer repellent on to try out. It did work. The labeled reapplication rate was up to 4 times, and reapply every 7 days. Or maybe there wasn't an application limit. Maybe it was just every 7 days. But anyhow, it bought me 6 days before the deer showed back up, and it knocked the herd down. The landlord said before I sprayed it, there would be anywhere between 15 and 20 out here every night, just moving around to different spots until they had the whole thing mowed off, and then he'd go back to the first spot and start eating the regrowth back off. But sprayed it. He said there were 6 days where there wasn't a single one out here, and then on day 7 he said 2 or 3 showed back up, but he said the majority of them never showed back up. So I mean, it worked. It just, at 85 bucks an acre for application, it just did on soybeans that may or may not have paid for another application. It just was not worth trying it again. But it did technically work like the label said, so take that for what you will. But the damage was already done. And I tried getting a DNR block permit out here, and it was 2 weeks to the day from when I made the phone call where they even got back to me. And then they emailed me this form I had to fill out, and then I had to send it back in. They said it would be at least another 2 weeks before the application went through and I would know whether or not I had permission. And the form had this, getting a block permit from the Michigan DNR is a fucking joke, I tell you what. I figured, I mean, I'd never had to get one before, never gotten one before. I figured how it worked was you called, they sent somebody out to assess the damage, and then they handed you a piece of paper that gave you, nope, that's not how we do it. because, you know, God forbid that somebody from the government actually does their job and leaves their office. No, we're going to do this all through the mail and over the phone. By the time you actually get done what you need to do, the damage is done and it's fucking pointless. And then it's not like you could shoot them throughout the season. You had, I think there was like a 6-week period or an 8-week period or something from, I think it was sometime like June 14th or July 14th. There was the 14th sticks in my head. It was either June 14th or July 14th. I'm thinking it was June. But then there was like a short period of time where you were allowed to do anything and you couldn't do anything outside. So it's like, what the hell is the point? I am so sick and tired of 3-letter government agencies, it's not even funny. I'm still waiting on the IRS to give me my tax return from last year. We're still fighting over that shit. How there's people right now that are fully supportive of a certain party that wants to instate more federal government power. Like, what makes people have the urge to be fucking ruled over with an iron fist? Like, why do you want more government involvement? Why? Tell me why? Limited government, that's the way. I'm going on a rant, sorry, I'm worked up. All the government's done is cost me money this year. But anyhow, let's go to cutting beans. I got the moisture tester in the truck. We're gonna cut some, we'll test the hopper. But I mean, I was out here walking around last night before I went and shelled corn to see, or to make a game plan, and they were plenty dry last night. Oop, come here. That one's actually a little doughy. We had a heck of a dew this morning too. We're gonna send it and see what happens. And I'll cut a pass down and back and work some endros off, and we'll just see how it turns out. I should also clarify, I understand that the DNR is a state government agency. I don't care if it's state or federal government. I'm fed up with both of them. Definitely not great, but I think what saved them is when they came back after when they regrew after the deer screwed them up, they put on branches. I think that's the one thing that's saving them. But I'm getting some splits, but the weird thing is the splits are the butter beans. You pull a split out and you put it in your mouth, it's like chewing on a gumball. The hard ones are fine, so is what it is. Beans need to come off, but they're testing 13.7, so we're gonna send it. Full yet, but I want to get my 4 passes along the backside so I can start cutting at my angle. We might break 30 bushel an acre. If we do, I'll be ecstatic, because I was coming out here fully expecting to make maybe 1 truckload, and I think we might make a truck and a partial off of it, which if we do, like I say, if I can get above 30 on this field, I will be ecstatic. But see, I'm getting these, hold on, I'm getting that, and they're making little splits. Come on, I can see them where they're at. Little splits like that guy, but if you bite them, they're rubbery. So, not a whole lot I can do about that. Probably beans off the bottom of the plant. They haven't quite dried out yet. But it's already 2:30, you wait any longer and you start running out of daylight awful quick. Then you gotta worry about the dew setting again. it's done. I was hoping we were gonna fill that truck and still have some left over, but it kind of dashed my hopes. That being said, I don't know if all that hopper's gonna fit in here. I think we can do it. I think we're gonna have to work for it, but I think we can do it. And I should still have enough time to make it down to the elevator to dump it. But I gotta move the truck so I can get to that side of it. You want to know the best part about this year, even though the yields suck? Just being able to pull into the field with the grain truck and not have to worry about getting stuck. Okay, this is gonna be tight, but I think we're good. Things got just a little dusty. When I first started, there must have still been a little bit of dew on, and there wasn't hardly any dust. And about an hour into it, holy cow, did that change. If it fits, it ships for a low flat rate. At least it made a respectable load. I am going to get up here and walk this down a little bit though, just so we don't take a turn and dump 30 bushel in the middle of the road. Yeah, I bet we end up spilling a little bit. All right, it's fairly flat. I think we'll be all right. Get this variable. I've always been going to, and I just keep forgetting to make hooks for both trucks to carry scoop shovels on the side of the beds for doing this. But all right, let's go dump this and see how we end up. Finish up. Shelly and I just got done moving the combine over to my uncle's place. Those luckily look like they're gonna be some halfway decent beans. They're like knee tall or better, at least down in the low ground, and they're the good stuff. Hopefully we finish up beans on a good note, because this was not, I mean, it was a better note than the last fields we ran, but still only managed 24.2. And the test weight was, I figured the test weight would have been better, because man, those batteries doing dumb shit. Anyhow, test weight was 56.5, still decent test weight for beans. Okay, luckily we were at the house, so I could go and grab a new battery. GoPro and their battery issues. I've had battery issues with these things ever since my Hero 3, and they still do dumb shit, but don't get me wrong, this thing's still better than my Hero 3 was. But anyhow, 56.5 test weight, 12.4 on the moisture, so good moisture. The splits weren't nearly as high as what I thought they'd be. It must have just been the few rows along the woods were doing it the worst, because there's only 1.6 on the splits, which ain't shit. So, decent grain quality, if that's what I try to keep telling myself. What is making up, or lacking in quantity, it's making up for in quality. So, like I say, hopefully my uncle does something. It should. It looks, those look like really good beans over there. Except for the one back corner where that big herd of deer was when I was planting and spraying. When I was spraying, we saw that big herd out there. Cousin said that's been out there on his trail cam the entire summer. He's been out there hunting, but I don't know if he's pulled any off of it yet or not. But there's so many freaking deer out here, and there ain't nearly enough people hunting them. And the state of Michigan has made it almost impossible. Well, I'm not going to say impossible, but very, very expensive. There's a lot of hunters in the state of Michigan that are completely and utterly up in arms over our DNR right now. Doe tag, the rules keep changing. I think it seems like, and somebody who actually hunts will be able to answer this question better, but I'm pretty sure doe tags right now are $20 a tag. Don't quote me on that. Hopefully a hunter can chime in, but I'm pretty sure Michigan doe tags right now are $20 a tag. I think. I'm pretty sure that's what my cousin told me. But it's just, something's got to give here. And yeah, you can try to get block permits, but this is all rented ground. You got people that don't want hunters. You got people who only want certain. It's just a nightmare even trying to do block permits because you got to juggle so many people. It's just welcome to farming, I guess. So anyhow, we're gonna get out of here. So didn't even need to come back here. I thought my grain truck was still outside, but Dad already put it away. So, and it looks like Lily says it's time for bed anyhow. So, well, that's it for this one, and we'll catch you guys on the next one tomorrow at my uncle's. Hopefully cutting some halfway decent beans.